Hello, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, curiosity seekers. I hope you're doing well. Things have been pretty rough here lately, but I've been going through some paperwork I'd kept that I had copied from books and written over 20 years ago when I was thrown into an ocean of books about God and religions, and they were all over the house, sacks and sacks of them. And I don't know if you've ever read Ellen G. White, but this I printed as an excerpt from Patriarchs and Prophets, and it is a reprimand, and I wonder if it's coming, because it really is bad. It's getting worse, and it wasn't then, but I felt moved to put this on the video, and I'll read it to you, what was written. The Lord declared to Israel, "The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me." The people were to be impressed with the fact that it was God's land, which they were permitted to possess for a time, that He was the rightful owner, the original proprietor, and that He would have special consideration made for the poor and unfortunate. It was to be impressed upon the minds of all that the poor have as much right to a place in God's world as have the more wealthy. Such were the provisions made by our merciful Creator to lessen suffering, to bring some ray of hope, not some ray of hope, He is light, to flash a gleam of sunshine into the life of the destitute and distressed. The Lord would place a check upon the inordinate love of property and power. Great evils would result from the continued accumulation of wealth by one class, excuse me, and the poverty and degradation of another. Without some restraint, the power of the wealthy would become a monopoly, and the poor, though in every respect fully as worthy in God's sight, would be regarded and treated as inferior to their more prosperous brethren. The sense of this oppression would arouse the passions of the lower class. There would be a feeling of despair and desperation, which would tend to demoralize society and open the door to crimes of every description. And that's happening now. The regulations that God established were designed to promote social equality. The provisions of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee would, in a great measure, set right that which during the interval had gone wrong in the social and political economy of the nation. These regulations were designed to bless the rich no less than the poor. They would restrain avarice and a disposition for self-exaltation, and would cultivate a more spirit of benevolence, and by fostering goodwill and confidence between all classes, they would promote social order, the stability of government. We are all woven together in the great web of humanity, and whatever we can do to benefit and uplift others will reflect in blessing upon ourselves. The law of mutual dependence runs through all classes of society. The poor are not more dependent upon the rich than are the rich upon the poor. While the one class asked a share in the blessings which God has bestowed upon their wealthier neighbors, the others need the faithful service, the strength of brain and bone and muscle that are the capital of the poor. Great blessings were promised to Israel on condition of obedience to the Lord's directions. I will give you rain in due season, he declared, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. And your threshing shall reach unto the vintage, and the vintage shall reach unto the sowing time. And ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in your land safely. And I will give you peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will rid evil beasts out of the land, neither shall the sword go through your land. I need to hesitate and tell you, these evil beasts are here. I have seen them. The Lord has shown them to me, and I have pictures and videos of them. And it's true. It's coming true. I will walk among you, and will be your God, and ye shall be my people. And I met his sons of heaven too. Might have been him, but he wasn't telling me. But if ye will not hearken unto me, and will not do these commandments, and you break my covenant, which are two, Old Testament, New Testament. Only the real Jews have the Old Testament, not just the Hebrews. They have no agreement of God. You shall not sow your seed in vain for breaking his covenant, for your enemies shall eat it, and I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth you. Christ has said that we shall have the poor always with us, and he unites his interest with that of his suffering people. The heart of our Redeemer sympathizes with the poorest and lowliest of his earthly children. He tells us that they are his representatives on earth. He has placed them among us to awaken in our hearts the love that he feels toward the suffering and oppressed. Pity and benevolence shown to them are accepted by Christ as if shown to himself. an act of cruelty or neglect toward them is regarded as though done to him. If the law given by God for the benefit of the poor had continued to be carried out, how different would the present condition of the world, morally, spiritually, and temporally? Selfishness and self-importance would not be manifested as now, but each would cherish a kind regard for the happiness and welfare of others. And such widespread destitution as is now seen, as many lands would not exist. The principles which God has enjoined would it prevent the terrible evils that in all ages have resulted from the oppression of the rich toward the poor, and the suspicion and hatred of the poor toward the rich. Well, they might hinder the amassing of great wealth and the indulgence of unbounded luxury. They would prevent the consequent ignorance and degradation of tens of thousands whose ill-paid servitude is required to build up the colossal fortunes. They would bring a peaceful solution of those problems that now threaten to fill the world with anarchy and bloodshed. And I know for a fact that is true today. It is true. And if people don't start changing, especially those, well, I'll just tell you to read Luke chapter 21. I always read the King James Version. And it can explain a lot of this to you. I pray for all of you. Send love out to all you, whether you like it or not. You have a great night, whatever you do. Be good, be safe, obey. Night.